Hello and welcome everyone. This is Ryan McNavage, one of your presenters. It is almost time. We will get started in about a minute or so.
We'll make sure that the links to the attendance are in the chat. So I see a lot of questions coming into the Q&A about the attendance form. Hang tight, we'll make sure you have the link and we'll put in the shortened URL too so that you can use that if it's easier. And you'll want to make sure that you're logged in with your MCPS Google account to access the attendance. You'll have to be signed in order to access the attendance form.
All right, according to my clock, it is 12 o'clock and we have a bunch to get through. So I want to get started and give us the most time possible. I want to welcome everyone to this session, this intro to myMCPS classroom session. It is basically getting started with your digital classroom. So we'll kind of go through a little bit about getting organized and then some of the basics of myMCPS classroom, which will basically be building blocks for you to do some of the additional trainings like creating content 1 and so on, which we'll talk about further on in this presentation. We have several presenters that will be working and presenting with me. My name, once again, is Ryan McNavage. I'm a technology implementation specialist. We also have Jason Sherwood, a technology implementation specialist. Elise Hawkins is here as well. She is on the Octo team, and Jeff Luttrell, who is a, what is exactly your title, Jeff?
I am a principal consultant and I work for the company that makes Canvas or myMCPS Classroom.
Thank you. So we will be all doing parts of that, and we'll be all kind of monitoring the Q&A. I wanted to point out the Q&A because that will be where we will be answering questions. Obviously, with almost 1,000 participants, we won't be able to answer all questions, but we will answer as many as we can. There is an option to upvote questions. If you see a question that someone else asked that you share that question, you can click on the little thumbs up and that will upvote that question so we can see those upvoted questions to see which ones have the most energy from the most people. And those will be the ones that we try to answer first. All right, as Elise said, in the chat, the chat is turned off for you to use, but you can post your questions in the Q&A, but the chat is still turned on for the instructors to send out links to you. 2 of the links that should be in the chat right now, one should be for this presentation and one should be for the attendance form. So please make sure that you click on the attendance form and sign in so that you get credit for being here today. We will be uploading the attendance information in the PDO into the corresponding course in PDO so that you get credit. All right, so our outcomes for today was that we will begin to plan and begin the planning transition process from what you have been doing face-to-face to an online learning platform. And because this is a session on myMCPS Classroom, that is what we're going to be focusing on. We're going to hopefully have you become familiar with the navigation in myMCPS Classroom, how to navigate, how to get through, how to view different aspects. And then we're going to have you learn how to make pages, in particular focusing on some of the different page tools in the rich content editor, and also how you would create modules, which are kind of like the building block. It's kind of like those 2 things are the building blocks of using a Canvas course. All right, so you can see our agenda corresponds to our outcomes. And so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to switch over, and I'm going to show you my screen, or share my, I'm actually already sharing my screen, but share a myMCPS classroom course and show you what possibly could be included in a myMCPS classroom. You can see some of the things that you may wish to include would be some sort of weekly overview, what you're going to go over that week. A welcome message, kind of basically highlighting the things that are in your overview, that are typed out in your overview, but in a video recording to your students. The different assignments, the different assignments, the different pages, the different content that you want to be sharing, and then some sort of preferred method of communication to you. It could be email, it could be using some sort of video web conferencing like Zoom. There are sessions on Zoom today and throughout the week, but some sort of way that where if students have issues, how are you going to be communicating with them and being able to answer them?
Ryan, Ryan, you're in your demo course, correct?
What's that?
Are your screen is still shared to the PowerPoint, the slide deck? So could you make sure, oh, have you switched over? I guess I'm just making sure.
Not yet.
Okay, my apologies. I jumped the gun.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to a demo course. This is a real basic setup. You can get very fancy and very, you can have a lot of things in myMCPS Classroom, but you can also keep it really simple and be very effective in that method as well. So you can see that I'm basically in a demo course, and you can see that it's basically when I'm on the home page for that course, and there is a welcome message and a welcome announcement, and that might be something that you want to do on a daily basis where there's an announcement. And if they clicked on it, they would view the announcement. And then you can see that underneath there's basically a week 1 module. So it basically is including all the information, all the materials for week 1. So you can see that it starts, and I'll actually click on these in just a moment, but it starts with a Monday message, or so basically kind of setting the stage for the week. There is an attendance form, an attendance quiz to make sure to give students credit for attending your class that day. And then it breaks it down into different subject areas. Like here is one on English language arts. So here are the different assignments for the week for English language arts. Some of them are a read aloud, like this is a YouTube read aloud, which I will get to in just a minute, and some are actually assignments. And then you can see it switches to math. Now these were assignments that we built, pages that we built, but also I just want to kind of bring your attention to some of the assignments that are going to be produced by curriculum will be able to be pushed out through these modules, where you'll be able to basically take their content and then just publish it. We'll talk about that more when we get to the modules section, but I just wanted to kind of point out that is an option where, yes, this is content that we created for this example, and you might want to create your own content, but there will also be content available from curriculum that you can add easily into your course, because it will already be pushed out and you will just need to publish. So now I'm going to go ahead and actually click on the Monday message, kind of start at the top of this module, and show you some of the different content that's available in the module. So you can see that it starts with just that Monday message. It's a recorded message, kind of going through what's going to go on this week. You can see at the bottom right of the message, there's a little talking head of me, the teacher. And so it would basically kind of give an overview of the week in a video message. You can see underneath there are different the different things that are going to occur this week, a high level overview, and then a way that how you are going to be communicating with your students. Okay. I'm actually going to switch now real quickly to the student view. I probably should have done that from the get-go. Give it a second here. Okay, so first was that Monday message. And then if I click next, it's going to take me to an attendance quiz, which basically says I am here today, yes. And I click submit. Okay. And then if I go back to home, and now I can go into the different pieces or the different activities. So here is just a real simple Pete the Cat activity, some directions at the top with a YouTube video that was inserted that the students are going to watch. When I click on the next button at the bottom, then they're taken to an assignment where they're basically now talking about the book that they just read. You can see there is some criteria at the bottom for their assignment, and then they would click on submit assignment to actually record their response. Okay, so that's basically how potentially how you could have a course set up. You can see that it kind of goes through, like, here is the first activity, Pete the Cat, and then there was a second activity with Pete the Cat, and then a third activity with Pete the Cat. And then it goes on to the different math lessons and so on. So those are just kind of a high level of how you may wish to set up a week's worth of activities. You can see that it's all contained within a module, and it's just broken down into the different subject areas for that module. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to the presentation. And so now we're going to talk about getting organized just for about the next 6 or 7 minutes. You know, before you start creating things in any platform, whether it's myMCPS Classroom or whether it's within Google Classroom, you're going to want to get organized and have your materials compiled or put together or before you get started. So, you know, things that you're going to want to keep in mind are, you know, where were you on March 13th? Where did you leave off and where do you need to resume? Is there any reteaching that needs to take place? And where are you going to access your curriculum? You know, where are the online links? Where are the different resources? What else do you need to, what else do you need to create? How are you going to organize that in your Google Drive or in other storage areas? And then the last thing would be maybe creating something like a weekly planner, or using something like a weekly planner. Many people already do this, but basically as you're gathering your resources and as you're preparing your lessons for the week, compiling them all and making a plan using some sort of planner. You can see that there is a planner linked in this presentation. And if I click on the next slide, it basically shows you a screenshot of what that planner looks like. And You may have one that you already use, and you're more than welcome to use that. This one does a little bit, has, when you're thinking about putting it onto an online platform, that last column, know what Canvas calls this, or some of the different things, just kind of, this planner might be helpful when you're trying to organize your thoughts in terms of online learning as opposed to regular face-to-face learning. Okay, so once you have, or when you are getting your files organized, you're going to want to go through, there's a couple of different things just to make your life easier in Google Drive and sharing your files and folders once they are in Google Drive, and how to upload those files into myMCPS Classroom. So we're going to go over a few of those things right now. Just take a few more minutes, and then we will get into the actual creating content in myMCPS Classroom. So for these next couple slides, I'm going to actually get out of the presentation, and I'm going to just go real quickly through. I'm going to switch over to Google Drive and just talk real quickly about this. I know for many people this is going to be a review, but for those that need it, I just want to mention it real quickly, as it is these are important skills. So you can see, like in my Google Drive, I have a lot of different folders listed, or in my Google Drive. That is a really good way to organize your materials, whether it's by subject area, whether it's by weeks, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on New, and then click on Folder, and then you would give your folder a name. So we'll just call this Online Learning. All right, and it's easy as that. So somewhere in my list of files, there we go, I have my Online Learning folder. I'm going to just double click on it to open it. So then at this point, if I wanted to create something new, I could click on New and choose one of the Google document types. Or if I have something from my computer that I want to upload, whether it's a file or a folder, I could do that right there under the New button as well. One thing that I want to mention when you're uploading that may make life easier when you're uploading things into your Google Drive is there is a setting option at the top right. If I click on that setting option and then click on Settings, I can go, the settings come up and I can see that says Convert Uploads. Mine is already checked, but you can see it says Convert Uploaded Files to Google Docs Editor Format. You want to make sure that's checked, because if you bring in, like say you upload a Microsoft Word file, it will automatically convert that Word file into a Google Doc file, which then is much more easy to put into myMCPS Classroom. Okay. I'm going to just real quickly create a new document because I want to show you one last thing. All right, so in this document, so once you create once you have things in your Google Drive, you're going to want to make sure the sharing privileges or sharing settings are set correctly. Otherwise, any student or any parent that is trying to access your file is not going to be able to do that. They'll get an error message. So when you're in a file, you can see that there is a share button at the top right. And if you click on it, let me just name the document real fast. When you click on the share icon, you can see it says Get Shareable Link at the top right. If I click on that, I can see that by default it says anyone in Montgomery County Public Schools can view the document. That may be all you want, but if you want your students to be able to edit the document, you're going to want to click there and choose Can Edit instead. And then you would say Done. And that way, now when you share this document, your students would be successful in being able to access it. I'm going to switch back now to the course. I think I have gone through my different slides. And now it's time for the navigation, and I'm going to switch it over to Jeff at this point.
Perfect. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of questions about taking attendance, accessing the materials from OSIP and things like that. We're going to table some of those because that's beyond the I don't know, the purview, the decision-making abilities of many of the people running this webinar. So the things we're going to talk about now, I think will help arm you with the platform. And then as more information comes out as the week goes on, you can use those just-in-time sessions, whether it's about a module or an assignment or a page, and attend one of those just-in-time sessions to get more concrete answers and examples when the content has been made available to you that OSIP is creating. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, so we're gonna take a few steps back to then go a little bit deeper. I wanted to make sure everybody knew how to access myMCPS Classroom in general, and which might sound kind of basic, but just making sure you know how to log in and do things like that, and then doing a quick tour of your course dashboard and your courses in general. So when you log into on your Chrome, if you're on a Chromebook or you're logged into your Chrome browser with your MCPS credentials, you have this folder over here called MCPS resources. And one of them is this link right here that says myMCPS Classroom. The first time you log in, right, you click the staff students. You want to use your mcpsmd.net account. And you're going to log in. Oh, the pressure of people watching you. Put your password in. Did I get it? I think so. Amazing. Okay, so when you're logged in, you're taken to your dashboard. And there were a few questions about like, do I create my own courses? Which courses do I use? So unlike Google Classroom, all of the courses in myMCPS Classroom are made for you and created for you automatically based on the courses and the sections that you teach in Oasis and Pinnacle. So whatever you're a teacher of record on, those should be the courses, the course cards or the course tiles that you see here. Because I'm not a teacher of record, mine look very different than yours, but you know, this could say grade 1 social studies. This one could say grade 2 science. This one, you know, whatever teacher of record, whichever courses that you're the teacher of record on, that's what you'll see in your dashboard. If for some reason things go missing from your dashboard, you can always click over here on the global navigation, the blue courses button, and you can click all courses. And this will list all the courses that you are enrolled in as both a student or a teacher or observer if you have children in MCPS and things like that. So you can always find all of your courses here on the courses menu if they're not already on your dashboard. Okay, so that is that piece. Let me switch views again, do some switching views around. So let's talk about the content or what you see a little bit more in depth here in terms of kind of what Ryan showed in his demo course. One of the things he showed in the demo course was the idea of having a module set up so that when your students log in, the first thing that they see is kind of an overview of the week's learning, right? So think of modules as kind of a binder, and you're going to organize your students with dividers and keep them all engaged in the learning in one specific place. So many of you, for the first time you click on a course, this is probably the screen that you're seeing. I like to call this the module screen of death because nothing's there and it feels super overwhelming, and I 100% get that. So one of the things we're trying to do with these trainings is to make it a little more feasible for you to get your feet, get your work started and moving the learning forward. Just a note, because this was asked in the Q&A a few times, this is where OSIP's pushed content will immediately appear into when that content is pushed later this week. I don't have an example of it right now, but basically what's going to happen, let's see if I can switch screens and show you more so an example. What's going to happen is there's going to be, again, jumping between all the screens, there's going to be a module that appears. Let's say this was the module, and this is not one of the OSIP modules, but if it was, this module would appear, and you would have the ability to publish it and move things around for your students to access from the content that's been pushed. Conversely, you can also create your own content, which I think is the point of some of these trainings as well. So let's go back to our module. Let's talk about how we create a module ourselves. Okay, so on the home screen here, you're going to click this blue button, plus module. So anytime you see blue plus something in myMCPS Classroom, that's basically where you're going to create. Okay, so if I click plus module, let's say I wanted to call this week 1, and week 1 is April. Let's do some math here. April 6th through 11th, I think is correct. I don't know. I've done this twice now. I should know this. So think of that as like, that's your binder. That's your binder where you're now going to put all the content into, okay? From here, you'll notice that there's this little X button. That means that that content is not published. So we're going to need to publish that content so students can see it. Students and parents can see it. But since we're still building right now, let's keep it unpublished. One of the sessions later this week will talk about publishing your course in general, so I'll point that out too. If this button is red right here, that means no one can see your course right now. No students, no parents, other teachers can see your course if you've added them as a co-teacher, but until this is clicked publish, that's when everything goes live. So just keep that in mind. It's basically like your drafting sandbox until you click the green publish mark, okay? All right, so from a module, we have our module here for the whole week. I want to add some content. So I'm going to click on this plus button right here, and it opens up this new screen where I can choose the type of content I want to add. So I can add an assignment, I can add a quiz, I can add a discussion, I can add just an external link to a website. For today, we're going to focus on a page, because a page is kind of your basic content building block. Think of it like where you can embed text or videos, something you want students to read or watch. That's what a page is mostly meant for. So if I choose this page option, and again, we're assuming you have nothing in your course. The first thing you're going to do is click this new page. And I'm going to title my page, maybe welcome to our course or something. Make it your welcome page, okay? If I click add item here, now there's going to be a page under my module that kind of is the first place your students will see when they log in here. Okay, if I click on this link here, it's going to take me to this page. So all my page has right now is a title. And you'll also see it's still unpublished. So until I click this, no one's going to see this content. Okay, let's go ahead and start editing a page, which is the next part of the webinar. When you click the edit button, this box right here is called the Rich Content Editor, and it's basically the most consistent thing you're going to see in myMCPS Classroom. It's kind of like your a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document. This is all your text options that you have, and this screen here appears in both pages and assignments. When you make a quiz, when you make an announcement, this is kind of like your one-stop shop when it comes to that information there. I'm gonna make sure I'm still on the same, yeah, okay. So just making sure we're there. And again, all of this is referenced in the webinar deck that's been sent out. So if you're like, oh, I didn't catch what Jeff was talking about, all of it's here in screenshots. And also there's support documentation and video links on each of the pages about the content that's on that slide page. So that's kind of nice just for your reference in the future. So let's do a quick tour of what the features are in the Rich Content Editor. I'm going to mostly focus on this top row and a little bit on the second row here. So again, this is just like a big text box. So welcome to the first week of online learning. If I wanted to have that text in, I can highlight it just like I would in a doc or a Microsoft Word file. I have some generic, text formatting features here, bold, italics. I can change the text color if I really want to. I can change the background color. you know, those are all there, and those are there for your disposal to use. If you ever want to remove formatting, you just highlight something, and right next to that, clear the formatting, and it'll return back to what it needs to. There's alignment, there's things like that. That's all pretty basic. One of the things I'll point out here, these tools right here. So myMCPS Classroom is super aware that you want to make things pretty simple. So there's not the 40,000 fonts for you to choose from. There's not all these text options, because they want it to be accessible for all users and for all devices. So the only real options you have are text size and some of those formatting options and text color, right? So again, it's this basic font otherwise. But one of the things you can use are these header features here, because, for example, if I wanted this to say welcome, I would want to make sure it was in this header option, because when a screen reader reads that, it's going to make it known that that's a header feature versus just basic text. So when you can, make sure you're using these things here. Paragraph is going to be for generic text, but if you have something you want to draw the kids' attentions to, use those header features, just like you would in a doc or a Word document. Another tip is that there are different size fonts. I would always go with size 14 in terms of being easy to read on a screen. I think it defaults to size 12, but I like size 14 for just ease of read. This is where we will learn, sorry, doing all the things at once. Okay. Another thing that I'll draw your attention to is an accessibility checker. So let's say you had changed this text color to green, but given it this blue background, and let's do something more crazy. Okay, let's say that's kind of hard on the eyes to see. One of the built-in features of all pages, all assignments, all quizzes within myMCPS Classroom is this accessibility checker here. So it's this little man with a circle around him. If I click this right here, it's going to read everything that's in my text box there, and it's going to give me some recommendations about what I can do to improve the accessibility of what's on there. So for example, it's saying, you should probably change the text color because it's kind of hard to read. So I can automatically make the changes here. It's still not happy. I'm going to do it till it's happy, right? And you would click apply, and you could go through all of the accessibility issues that you found until, oh look, it's happy. So I can click apply, and then there's magic balloons that say no accessibility issues were detected on this page. So keep in mind that's a cool built-in feature to myMCPS Classroom to really make your pages viewable and easy to read for all. Other things in the page options that we can talk about here. So one of the features right here next to our paragraph alignments, it says record upload media. So Ryan kind of alluded to this earlier. If you wanted to make a video welcome message on the front of your module page there, this could be a feature that you use. And basically it uses your built-in webcam. I can click start recording, and it's going to record. I'm going to be able to speak to my students and give them kind of that human interaction there. If I click finish and I click save, it's going to embed that video directly into the page for me, for my students and parents to view. Let's see, what other things can I talk about? Links. So you could, you can also add links directly into text. So if you said something like, start your learning by viewing this document, I can highlight this text. I can click on link to URL, which is up here on the rich content editor toolbar. And it says, what URL would you like to use? I'm gonna use google.com. You would use something else for your content. And then now you know that there's a link there because it's underlined in blue for not only for a screen reader to know, but also any other user viewing the page. Again, I can always check the accessibility of the page by doing that. I can also embed images, right? So let's say I wanted to use an image right here, embed image. You can do this. The easiest way to do this is by clicking the Canvas tab right here, clicking course files, going to upload, and then I'm going to choose, let's choose this Donald Duck picture right here. I'm going to choose this Donald Duck picture, and I'm going to click update. And now my Donald Duck picture is within the page. Once it's in the page, you have a few options to make it smaller and things like that. So like you can literally resize it like that. Or if you click on the picture and go back to your embed image picture or button, you can come down here and type in the dimensions. So I want to make it a little bit smaller. It's going to automatically resize it based on what you say. I can center this. I can, you know, there's a few options there for sure. One of the things I want to point out is that every image you upload into myMCPS Classroom should have an alt text. And again, that's for screen reader accessibility. So if I ran a screen reader right now, it would say, it would read that picture as 38512, etc. So I want to make sure to call this something that it is, so that when a screen reader reads that, it would read Donald Duck. It wouldn't read those numbers and jumbles, okay? One thing to keep in mind too is if you don't have alt text and I run my accessibility checker, it's going to find that and it's going to allow you to call out and type in the alt text for that picture you've uploaded. So again, nice features to kind of help you out as you work throughout the content. More information about pages can be learned about in the just-in-time pages webinar, which I believe begin tomorrow. So if you want to go a little bit deeper into this, not only that webinar option, but also creating content 1, that webinar goes into deeper functionalities with how you can use pages in your courses. Last thing I'll say down here, if you're ready to publish and make it live for students and parents, click Save and Publish. Otherwise, just click the blue Save button and it will stay drafted, okay? So if I go back to the Home button here, now I can see within my module that, doing some thinking, there we go. Now I can see within my module, there's my page. Again, if I was ready to publish, I would click this button right here. Otherwise, I would leave it there. All right, that is the depth that we're going to in terms of content about this right now. We have about 15-ish minutes left, so we can maybe tackle some of the specific questions you all have. I do want to end before we get to Q&A just for a rehash on the resources and support that are available to you in all of these webinar decks. This link right here takes you to the listing of all the options available for you through the PD this week. These will also include the recording links to all of the webinars. So if you ever need to go back and look at something or you missed one, in this document here, you'll be able to find all of those links from these PD sessions. This document here is great for all the technology tools being introduced to you and accommodation ideas. So click on it and you can see ways that we are ensuring we're reaching all of our students, all of our ESOL students, all of our SPED students. How are we making this content as accessible to them as we can? And this document here gives a lot of ideas about that. If you're like me and you kind of need, 3 or 4 touches with information that's new, there are some additional myMCPS classroom resources and training opportunities for you. These first 2 right here are self-paced courses that you can enroll in. I'll call out this specific one down here called the Prepare to Launch program. That's actually created by the company that makes Canvas, myMCPS Classroom. And its whole iteration was made for this specific environment for teaching under COVID-19. So it helps you launch your course from start to finish in about 40 minutes. So how you set it up, what should you think about? And it's a self-paced course with some videos and some interactive elements as well. So if you want to try that out, that's a great kind of like follow-up to this course and the rest of the courses offered this week. Additionally, there are all the deep dive courses that are offered through Salary Day and found in PDO. So you can enroll for those 1-hour credit courses. Those are also all self-paced. All right, so I'll defer back to Ryan and see if and Jason, if there's any like big questions that people brought up that you saw over and over again, we can address those right now.
Yeah, Jeff. So I've been trying to man it. Having 1,000 participants, by the way, and trying to manage your questions is not an easy task. But thankfully, with the upvoting, some of these questions have jumped to the top. So I'll try to address a lot of those first. And I would say, and some of this probably was already addressed, but I'll just reiterate it. One of the big questions that we continue to get is, are we responsible for creating our content? I thought that content was going to be pushed to us. And the answer is both. The reality is the content will be available to you. So curriculum will be designing modules that will be pushed to your Canvas courses so that you can use those. But like with everything, we know as teachers that there's oftentimes that we want to give supplemental materials, and we want to tweak some things and include ideas of our own that we would like to provide our students. And that's really what this course was about, is, you know, setting up some of the basics. So even if it is just simply a matter of, hey, I just want to record myself to say hi to my students and just tell them, hey, this is how you're going to do this activity. That's what our goal was today. So is the requirement that you are creating all this content yourself? No, not at all. But you definitely need to know how to do it, because I guarantee you at some point, there will be a time where you're going to be like, I wish I could create something to help my students out with this. Because we're all learning this, right? The students are learning it. The curriculum department is learning how to do this in an online setting, and we're learning how to host it. So definitely I would encourage you to learn how to do this. The second big one that seemed to come up quite a bit was the idea of co-teachers. So a lot of you are not assigned students. So whether that is because you're a content specialist or a resource, or you are a media specialist and you don't have courses assigned to you. And oh, great, thanks. I was hoping you could do that, Jeff. Adding people as co-teachers and adding them to your course is pretty simple. It's just a matter of going to the People tab, and Jeff, show them how easy that is to do.
Yeah, so in the People tab, this is basically where it'll show you all the students enrolled in your course. You can search by observers, which is parents. You can search by co-teachers, things like that. But to add somebody new, just click on that plus blue People button. Either one is good. So you can type in, you know, an mcpsmd.org. Actually, let's just do the .net because that's the one I know the best. So if I wanted to add, this is my mcps.net email address. If I click that, I then come down here and I can click teacher or co-teacher. And I saw this question. Either way, they have the same rights in terms of access to you. It's just a determination of like who's ultimately. So I would just do co-teacher. Yeah,
just remember that the teacher is the teacher of record.
Correct.
So especially for courses that are linked to your gradebook, the teacher who is the teacher of record wants to keep that label as teacher, and any additional people they want to add, I would mark them as co-teachers. It'll still be all the same permissions, but that'll differentiate the role of each.
So then click next, and it will just verify that that's the person you want to send it to, right? Keep in mind, I don't know if you all saw what I was doing, but I would just do login ID, which is their .net email account. If it doesn't like it, it'll tell you. It'll be like, we didn't find that user. So if I wanted to add this person co-teacher, all I click is then add users. And then on your People page, it says pending. So the next time that I log in with my MCPS account, at the top of my dashboard, it will say you've been invited to be a co-teacher. I click accept, there it is. And it'll appear on your dashboard.
Excellent. So a couple other questions, since we have time to answer these. The other question was in that same regard, those teachers that don't have students assigned to them often want to know, well, don't I get courses to use? And the answer is, well, they are not provisioned for you initially. So they're not going to be automatically provisioned like they are for a teacher of record that's associated with a gradebook. But you can have courses added for you. So any school admin, Canvas admin, I should say, myMCPS classroom admin, and that's people like the staff development teacher, media specialists, obviously administrators, they can create manually created courses. So they can set up a brand new course that's not associated to anyone, and then they would actually use that same process of adding people and adding them to that particular course. So problem with that, of course, obviously, is you won't have any students enrolled, and we wouldn't recommend that you would manually enroll a large group of students. So the best option is to join as a co-teacher to someone who does have students that are connected to it. But that's definitely a possibility. I know people like to have a course that they can give, and there are some ways to do that. So during some of our more advanced sessions, we can definitely go into that piece.
Yeah, and I see some. I was going to say I see some questions about the gradebook and things like that. So. Yeah. In creating content 1 and creating content 2, that's where we get into really more depth about those features. So you know, think of these as a series, right? This is your first session, your first PD. Your next one should be creating content 1, then creating content 2, and then finally that going live with your digital classroom. Those 4 should give you a kind of a full, all-encompassing look at how to use myMCPS Classroom with your students and parents. There are also those just-in-time sessions, right? So if you're like,
Yep.
I really need to follow up on assignments, like I want to know how to make a Google Cloud assignment, join that just-in-time session on assignments, which those all start tomorrow. So keep in mind that, again, like level 2.0 is basically tomorrow and beyond.
That's a good point. The other question that we got a lot, and I can't remember if we already addressed this because I was busy trying to respond to some people, was the idea of, do I use one course or multiple courses? And so most teachers have a course assigned to every subject that they're assigned in their gradebook. So you'll have multiple course tiles. And while it is easier, and a lot of, especially lower elementary, prefer that their students go to one course and access everything, that is a possibility. In other words, you could create these modules that are broken down by subject area, and post assignments that way within a module for one course, such as like your learning skills course. However, curriculum will be pushing out content to your subject specific course. So you would, if you decide to have a course where everything's in one place, number one, you would have to bring in the content that they push out to you by bringing it in from those other courses. Now, one recommendation could be, if you want one house or one course to be like your home base, so to speak, you could definitely create links in your weekly message. And those links in that page could link out to those other courses. And as long as those students are enrolled in those courses, that link would take them directly to it. So that's an option. Obviously, our recommendation would be that you would want to keep those courses separate so that you're not having to give yourself more work, right? So if they're going to push the content to your subject specific course, then teach your students how to access that. And we are providing materials for students and parents to learn how to navigate myMCPS Classroom. And during your weekly message, even at some point this week, you can even include that. Hey, this is how we're going to navigate. So when you want to work on your reading or English language arts materials, you're going to go to this course. But we would definitely recommend that. It's just going to make it easier, especially if you want to use that feature of the grade sync. So at some point when we get to actually taking grades, by keeping those courses separate, you'll be able to sync your grade book to your online Pinnacle gradebook, which is a big bonus.
And then I'll just answer this last one real quick, because I saw it was toward the bottom, but about home pages, right? So I think, you know, you could have a super fancy homepage that maybe you import from one of the templates and commons, which again, that'll be talked about in Creating Content 1, that webinar. But you can also just have this as your homepage, where the modules take your homepage. And that's what it defaults to unless you choose it otherwise. So when students and parents log in, this is the page they see, unless again, that you want to change it, which over here on the right, you say choose homepage, and you can change it to something else. And again, we'll get into that more so in the Creating Content 1 webinar and or the Just-in-Time Pages webinar.
So with that, I know we have a pretty hard stop here at 12:50 because we all have multiple webinars that we are presenting today. We are booked solid. And it was great to see having over 1,000 people in this particular webinar. So I hope we gave you a good foundation of where to start, how to start. If this was overwhelming to you, we are recording this and we will be putting it in our professional development brochure. So the PD brochure, if you got a chance to see it when you were choosing these courses to sign up for in PDO, we will be putting links in there of these recorded sessions. So you can watch this as often as you want, rewatch it, or you might decide you want to join another one of these sessions, as we'll be giving these sessions multiple times throughout this week and next. So hopefully if you didn't get your questions answered today, you can either rejoin us for another session, or like Jeff mentioned, we have all kinds of additional content that we'll be covering in some of our more advanced sessions. So if you want to take a look at that, you definitely can. But with that, I believe Ryan has posted in our chat the evaluation link. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, please make sure you give us some feedback, as this is all new to us all. As Elise mentioned, maybe some of you didn't hear this at the very beginning, all of our resources, whether it's the forms or it is the presentation or any of our additional training materials that are housed in Google Drive, are all housed so that you can only access them if you are logged into your mcpsmd.net Google account. So if you happen to be joining today and you're on a personal computer and you might be in your own personal account, you'll definitely want to add a second profile of your MCPS account so that you then can have access to all those materials and you don't get those errors or say that you need to ask or request permission, because I'm getting all those emails of those who are requesting permission, and your job is to log into your MCPS account so that you can have full access to those. So with that in mind, this is our stopping point. So I hope you got a lot of information today, and we hope to see you again soon in some of our upcoming meetings. So have a great afternoon, everybody.